Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith are already signed through at least 2028, all with the hope of providing a chance to parade through downtown Philly again next year. ESPN NFL analyst Louis Riddick joins us now. So, Louis, the Eagles were able to bring back Zach Bond, re-sign Saquon Barkley, but they lost several key defensive pieces from their Super Bowl team. Louis, how would you evaluate Philadelphia's offseason so far?
Look, this is the price of doing business, Ryan. I mean, when you wind up being as successful as this team has been, and you wind up having to pick and choose which players that you want to extend, which players are pillar players, there's only so much money to go around, even for those guys, even for a team as successful and as good at managing the cap as the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's going to be some people that ultimately you have to let go off the greener pastures and go ahead and secure their financial future. And what that is that's a testament to like how well you have really drafted and developed some of these guys. Like Milton Williams, I mean, he's homegrown. That's a guy who's gone off and become one of the highest paid interior defenders, one of the highest paid defenders in the entire league. And that's a testament to the scouting department and the coaching staff that Philadelphia has, working for them. Josh Sweat is another one who winds up signing a free agent deal to go to Arizona. That's a testament to the Philadelphia Eagles drafting and developing him, taking a chance on him out of Florida State when he had some injury history. And what you wind up having to do now is you have to replace those guys. You have to replace them with more draft picks who you wind up drafting and developing, and they become, more affordable guys on the roster, those young guys that you bring in. And some of the guys that right now that are young, like Quinyon Mitchell, like Cooper DeJean, you can best believe their payday's coming too. And Philadelphia's going to have to pick which ones of those guys that they choose to pay and lock up, and then which ones they wind up letting go. And that's just kind of how the cycle works in the NFL. But what it is what it shows you is that you're doing it the right way. When you have to make hard decisions like they have to make because you're winning and you can't pay everybody, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, this is what happens when you win a Super Bowl, indeed. So looking at the rest of the league these last few days, Louis, which team's moves have you loved the most?
Really, I'd have to say, look, New England to me really jumps out because of the fact that Mike Vrabel is amassing a roster in his image, guys who are hard-nosed, tough players who are going to play fast, physical football the way in which he wants to play it, particularly on defense. With the signing of a guy, like Milton Williams from the Philadelphia Eagles, he brings Harold Landry over from the Tennessee Titans, who he developed when he was the head coach down there in Nashville. He signs Carlton Davis to be one of the lockdown corners in the back end, a big physical corner that'll run, hit, tackle, and can intercept the football. He brings over Robert Spillane, an inside linebacker, started off with the Steelers, went to the Las Vegas Raiders, and now he's there with Vrabel, and he's going to be a tone setter in the middle. They get Morgan Moses to be the right tackle to really try and, shore up the protection for Drake May. So you got to love those kinds of moves for a team that right now had so many holes, but they're picking them off one by one to where they can now go into the draft and they can really just draft best player available while at the same time fill some more needs.
New England had $129 million in cap space going into free agency, and we've seen so far they haven't been afraid to use it. Teams can officially sign free agents, by the way, starting on Wednesday. Louis, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Free agency on Tuesday. Could have a quarterback competition brewing in Indy. Daniel Jones is signing on with the Colts to battle Anthony Richardson for QB1. The deal, 1 year, $14 million. After parting ways with the Giants last season, he spent the last 2 months of the regular season on the Vikings practice squad. Here's Adam Schefter with more.
From the moment last season ended, Indianapolis made it known it was going to bring in competition for former first-round draft pick Anthony Richardson. And now it has. Daniel Jones opted to leave Minnesota because he felt the idea of beating out Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis was more achievable and attainable than beating out former first-round draft pick J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. And so now the quarterback battle in Indianapolis is on. Anthony Richardson versus Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones signed a 1 year, $14 million contract. The Colts are not exactly paying him as a backup. We'll see whether or not he remains as a backup or whether he's able to overtake the former first-round draft pick in Indianapolis.
We shall see. And after being released by the 49ers, defensive end Leonard Floyd found a home with the Falcons on a 1 year, $10 million deal. Floyd had 8.5 sacks last year for San Francisco. That's second on the team. In fact, the former Georgia Bulldog hasn't had less than that sack number since 2019. He bolsters an anemic Falcons pass rush that finished next to last in sacks last season. So the 49ers, here's just a few of them who departed this offseason via free agency or otherwise. Aaron Banks, Deebo Samuel, Drake Greenlaw, Javarius Ward, and Talanoa Hufanga. The Niners have also said they plan to release defensive tackles Javon Hargraves and Malik Collins, as well as longtime fullback Kyle Juszczyk later this week.
Elsewhere around the NFL, Texans traded their 2022 first-round pick guard Kenyon Green for Eagles safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. After losing Josh Sweat to free agency, Philly will enter 2025 without its leader in interceptions and without its leader in sacks from last season. DeAndre Hopkins agrees to a one-year deal with the Ravens. Baltimore will enter the season with the NFL's active leaders in career rushing yards and career receiving yards, Derrick Henry and Hopkins. And former Chargers edge rusher Joey Bosa agreed to a one-year deal with Buffalo worth $12.6 million. That according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. Bills cut Von Miller earlier this week. You want more free agency news? We got it. Minnesota reinforced its defensive line with former Commanders Pro Bowl defensive tackle Jonathan Allen and reinforced its O-line with former Colts guard Will Freeze. Giants will bring in 25-year-old safety Javon Holland, while the Saints agreed on a 3-year deal with Justin Reed, who will once again be paired with Tyrann Mathieu.
During NFL free agency, we're in the second day of the frenzy, and the Steelers still don't have a quarterback. Plenty of questions around. Now, they lost Justin Fields to the Jets here. Last year's main starter, Russell Wilson, still available. And then there's Aaron Rodgers. He's still walking around the chairs while the music is playing. We'll see who's left when the record stops as we continue the discussion here in the future of the future Hall of Fame quarterback. Senior NFL insider Adam Schefter joining us now alongside analyst Louis Riddick. Shefty, so they acquired DK Metcalf. Okay, that's their big signing, the Steelers. Who's going to throw him the ball? What's the latest you're hearing with the Steelers?
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers and their fans are just as curious as you and everybody else are, because they don't know right now who's going to be throwing the football. Look, they were in on Matthew Stafford. He opted to return to Los Angeles. They were in on Justin Fields. He opted to go to the New York Jets. They are now in on Aaron Rodgers, and everybody's waiting to see ultimately what Aaron Rodgers decides. Russell Wilson's even waiting in the wings. But Rodgers seems to be the first choice in Pittsburgh and in New York with the Giants. But Aaron Rodgers wants to process his decision, take his time, do the right thing. Hard to know exactly what he's thinking. Never fully know. Not going to speak for the man. But I think everybody's waiting to see what he decides, because I think he's got first dibs on where he wants to play next.
Yeah, Shefty just doesn't want Aaron to tell him to lose his number, so he doesn't want to speak too much about this.
I lost it. I don't have it.
You know what? It is. I've said all along, and I'll continue to say this until this is done or not done, that these two teams, this team and this player need one another. Pittsburgh needs to level up. They just do. I've been saying it all day. They need to level up at the quarterback position. They need to have somebody who can take this passing game to the next level, that Arthur Smith can work with, that they can create a more diverse, explosive passing attack that can win games for them in crucial moments. I think Aaron, the way he was trending at the end of last year, how he will be better in year two coming off his Achilles, I think you can project forward reasonably that for the next maybe 1 to 2 years, if he's committed to playing the game, he will be able to level up his game, and he will take this team to a different level. Okay, so he needs them. Why? Because Aaron needs to just focus on football at this point. Let's not be the GM. Let's not be the offensive coordinator. Let's not, decide who's going to be on the football. Just play the game. Have your career end the way you want it to end, which is on a high note. With a franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers that are just revered throughout the NFL, and with a coach like Mike Tomlin, who's going to put you in situations that allow you to shine.
Now,
I think it just makes sense.
As this waits, a lot of people are saying, oh, could Minnesota be one of those places? Well, J.J. McCarthy's the last man standing in Minnesota after Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, and Daniel Jones all signed elsewhere. So what's the plan here? J.J. McCarthy, of course, coming off that injury, top 15 pick in the draft a year ago. What's the situation in Minnesota?
The plan was to go with J.J. McCarthy as the starting quarterback before Daniel Jones went to the Indianapolis Colts. He was the former 10th overall pick last year. Look at all the success that all the rookie quarterbacks had last season. The Vikings